Hey, Arcturus here. Today we're looking at the Helsmiths of Hashut, Helforge Host. This is the Helsmiths Spearhead, which is made up of the same models that came in the army box and lets you field the War Despot, the Dominator engine, the Tormentor Bombard, and then two 5-model Infernal Cohorts with Hashutite spears. So I have built them all with spears. I did some finagling to get them so that they could all have shields because I think that looks better than the two-handed spears. I didn't like the look of those. And I did swap around some of the heads to try and make it so that they all have beards because I think they're dwarves and I like that look a lot better. We'll start off by talking about battle traits. So as part of the Spearhead, for the Spearhead game mode, your battle trait is once per turn in your hero phase. You can harness demonic power. This is your demonic power points. You must use this ability at the start of each of your hero phases. You remove all demonic power points from each friendly unit. You then gain a number of demonic power points equal to the battle round. Then you allocate your demonic power points to friendly units. Each unit can have a maximum of 3 demonic power points. Then any that are unallocated are lost. So as the game goes on, your units gain more power because you have more demonic power points to give them. For regiment abilities, you have one of 2 options. The first option is Grinding Advance. This lets you pick up to 2 friendly Infernal Cohort units to be the target. Each unit can then move 3 inches, but cannot use charge abilities in the first battle round. And this is once per battle, so you could use it to get an extra 3-inch move in the first round at the expense of charging in that first round. The alternative is a once per turn ability in your shooting phase, and that's Suppressive Bombardment. You pick 1 enemy infantry unit that had any damage allocated to it this turn as a result of shooting attacks made by the Tormentor Bombard, and until the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from the number of dice rolled when making charge rolls for that target unit to a minimum of 1, which I think is the clear winner of these. I think there's some edge cases for the Grinding Advance, but because it's a once per battle, as opposed to the other being once per turn, I definitely think the once per turn is much more useful, especially because you reduce their ability to charge by 1 die, which is very powerful. Obviously won't stop certain close charges, but it does prevent them from making a very long charge roll against you with the Tormentor Bombard, and you can do that every single turn, as long as your Bombard is alive. Also have 4 enhancements. You have the Scroll of Petrification, which you can give to your general, which is the War Despot. For the rest of your turn, your general has ward of 2+, but cannot use abilities or be picked to be the target of friendly abilities. That's the Scroll of Petrification, which is once per battle in any hero phase. The next option is Chalice of Darkness, also once per battle in your shooting phase. You can pick 1 enemy unit within 12 of your general to be the target, and you just inflict D3 mortal damage on the target. Sadly, only once per battle. Essentially a free D3 damage to the target. The next is the Talisman of Obsidian. This is a passive ability which lets you ignore the first point of damage allocated to your general in each phase. So that's quite strong because it goes off each phase. Your phases, enemy phases, very useful, I think. And then the last is also once per battle, and that's the Amulet of Burning Hate. This can be done in any combat phase. And this gives your general crits on a 5-up. I think the winner of this is Talisman of Obsidian. Personally, I think that's just generally useful. Requires very little work to maintain. I could see an argument for mental clarity to pick one of the once per battle ones because then you don't have to remember it every phase, or if you've used it already in that phase. But personally, I'd go with the Talisman of Obsidian and the Suppressive Bombardment. I think those would be best. So let's take a look at the War Despot. You can see I've primed some of these. I primed them in black because it seemed like a good idea at the time. I have not settled on a paint scheme. I have been testing some paint schemes out, as you'll see when we look at the Sergeant for the Infernal Cohort, or the Sergeant model, which was probably not the best choice to paint as my test piece, but it's done. So I'm kind of locked in now. It would have been better to use the freebie model of the month they gave out instead, but I didn't do that. So we can't go back now. So here we have the War Despot. He has a Demon Flame Glaive, which is a melee weapon only, which is a shame because he does have this nice pistol here. But his Demon Flame Glaive has 5 attacks, hits on 3+, wounds on 3+, 1 rend, 2 damage with mortal damage for the crit ability. And he also has a passive, which is add 3 inches. He has a passive called the Black-Hearted Conqueror, which gives 3 to the control score of friendly units while they are wholly within 6 inches of this unit. And for each demonic power point, you can increase the range of that ability by 3 inches. So an additional 9 inches potentially with 3 demonic power points, which is quite useful. I quite like this model. It's got a very nice detailed beard. It's a little hard to see since I primed him black, but he has a bunch of gems here, which I think will look really good. Some nice detail. Unfortunately, he is a monopose kit, so that does make it a little more difficult to justify having more than one of them. I will probably wind up picking up a second Spearhead because I do want another set of the Infernal Cohort. I do want another Dominator engine, and I want another Bombard, or the Bombard kit. And that seems the easiest way to get it since those are normally at a discount. I think you get the Dominator engine for free, as people were speculating on the price, based on the kit standalone. So I think justifiable to pick up a second one. I really do like this model though, and it will make an excellent kit bash for some fancier demonsmiths, I think. Set him off to the side. We'll look at our Infernal Cohort next, then we'll look at the Dominator engine. So one thing I did after I built the first guy with Hammer was I realized I probably should not glue the shields on, so none of the other ones have the shields glued on just yet. I think it will be easier to paint them, although I will say it hasn't been too difficult so far. So I may just glue them on, but I haven't decided yet. But I also haven't primed them. So I will have to decide as I'm painting up this as the test model for a paint scheme. You can see I went with silver here. I do like this model. It's quite nicely detailed. I'm thinking the silver works really well for these. Very dwarfy. He has a nice little eye patch on this side. I don't think my camera's good enough to really show that. Some nice detail. I like this shield with all the text on it. There are a few variations for this one. The head for the sergeant, if you want it to have the beard, I believe is the same. There are a few options though. But I was going with nice silver for the plates, silver for the scales. I'm not decided on this butt plate. If it's going to be silver, I may go with gold. That's going to be the highlight color for all this trim. It's going to be gold. I think I'm going to do the horns in gold as well. And then probably maybe like a copper or a darker gold for the little talisman there on his leg. I am liking the purple for the cloth. I have not decided on the shield. You can see I was testing with purple there in the corners. I may just do the whole thing in silver and just ignore the fact that it's got this sort of triangle section on the sides. Have not decided yet. Originally, I was going to go with a nice red, but I decided not to because I didn't think I could get the right shade with the green for the fire and have it not look like Christmas. I did see a few people who did them online in green where it looked really nice with green and red and it looked really good, but I just didn't think I could get that. So it was kind of well, let's do something a little better for my abilities. So currently I'm leaning towards silver, gold, purple for the cloth. And then I'm thinking of doing blue for the flames. I might go with green. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't decided yet. I primed this one up as well. This is the only dwarf head, I think, without a helmet. If you do want them to all have beards, it is possible. I did them, but you do have to use this head and the musician head, which we'll look at next, who I also primed in the black. In retrospect, I probably should have primed them silver, but at the time I wasn't thinking of painting them in silver. If you don't use this head, you are one head short for beards if you want them all to have beards. Since they are dwarves, I do want them all to have beards. I just think it looks proper dwarfy as opposed to the non-bearded heads. You do also get a hobgrot musician carrier. This is more of just a token than something on the field, but it worked quite well. Just carrying a gong here, some knives there for detailing, sort of this strange sort of shoulder contraption there for the gong. And then our last 4 of the Infernal Cohort. So obviously they need their shields added still, of course. These can also be built with swords. However, for the Spearhead, they do need spears. The Hashutite Spear has 2 attacks that hit on 3s and wound on 4s. For no rend natively and 1 damage apiece. They do have anti-charge ability for +1 rend. The kit in the Spearhead that the team of 5 in the Spearhead that you give access to the musician can use the Strike the Gong effect. You remove the gong carrier model from the battlefield because it's just a token, and then you can return D3 slain models to this unit. Their passive is Demonic Resilience. So for each demonic power point given to the unit, they have one of the following effects. For 1 demonic power, they have a 6+ ward. For 2 demonic power, they have a 5+ ward. And for 3 demonic power, they have a 5+ ward. And you ignore the first point of damage allocated to this unit in each phase, which is quite strong for 3. Even ward, I think, is quite good. But I think you do have other areas you'd want to give demonic power points to, generally speaking. At least in the Spearhead. So I'll slide those over a little bit, and then we'll look at the Tormentor Bombard. So this one also has a few pieces I haven't glued down yet, and that's all the little dudes on it. I want to prime them first. I think it will be easier to paint them that way. They could very easily be stuck to a spare base you have lying around for priming, just with some blue tack even. Probably wouldn't even need to glue them down. So we'll look at the little guys in a second. Here is the Tormentor Bombard. Part of it is if I put this guy here, I won't be able to get to any of this detail, and I think it will still be visible, just not easily paintable, at least at my level of skill. You get some nice details here. The Bombard actually does not rotate, even though it looks like it should, but there's no real need for it to. Some nice flame details here as well. And this kit is able to build the Deathstreaker missiles, which is quite nice. Quite easy swap. I think you could easily magnetize them or make it very swappable. I didn't bother, but I think you could do it. Here is your torchbearer to fire the thing. A nice skull mask here on top of that helmet, sticking out over the beard. Little knife there. Lots of nice little details. Sort of apron here with the torch. Very nice. I think it will look really good. Again, I haven't decided on green or blue flames yet. Let me know if you have these kits, which ones you're going for as well. Then we also have our Overseer here. This one does not have an alternate head, so if you do want them all to have bearded heads, you will have to find one from another kit, because this does not have one. You could probably easily swap in the Ashen Elder head, although I don't know with this neck section here with that sort of detail if that will be very doable, but I think it would with the way that head goes on. And then you also get a hobgrot for that, just sort of doing repairs or winching something down here with this piece. It does attach somewhere. I believe it attaches to one of the legs. I think it could go on either side. So the legs for this, the stabilizing legs, he can just attach to like so. His piece will attach there, kind of like locking it down or something. Works pretty well. You could probably attach him for priming. I just didn't because I thought it was easier not to at the moment. And then last, for the Tormentor Bombard, it does have the Torrent of Ruinous Energy, which has a 30-inch range, 4 attacks hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, 1 rend, D3 damage, and the Anti-Cavalry for +1 rend, and Anti-Infantry also for +1 rend. It does also have Calculated Trajectory as a passive ability, and this adds 1 to hit rolls for this unit's shooting attacks that target an enemy unit with 5 or more models that is more than 12 inches from this unit. It's quite good. +1 to hit is always good. And then it also has the once per turn your shooting phase, which is Ruinous Bombardment, which has you declare if this unit used a shoot ability this turn and all of its attacks targeted the same unit, that enemy unit is the target. Then you can pick a number of enemy units within 6 inches of the target equal to the number of demonic power points to be additional targets. Roll a die for each target. On each 3+, you subtract 3 from the target's control score for the rest of the turn. So pretty useful for dealing with control. For some of those ranged enemies, very useful in the first round, probably not useful later on. A good choice, I think, for early use of demonic power points. So the Tormentor Bombard does have a melee weapon called the Artillerist Weapons, which is basically the crew fighting. It has 3 attacks, hitting and wounding on 4s for no rend and 1 damage, no abilities. You probably don't want that to be happening, but it is there if it does get stuck in melee. So last, we have the Dominator engine. And this kit does have 2 builds. It has a mace build as well. For the Spearhead, you do want the cannon arms instead of the mace arms. So this does have a ranged weapon, of course, called the Immolation Cannons. 8-inch range, 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 4s, 1 rend, D3 damage, and can shoot in combat, which makes sense. He basically has flamethrowers for arms. Also has a melee attack called Horns and Pummeling Strikes with 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, 1 rend, D3 damage. When you give him demonic power points, for each point, you add 1 to the move characteristic and 1 to the attack characteristic of its weapons, which affects both ranged and melee, and is just a cool build. You can see there are some spots where I didn't quite get the black primer as well. There's like one angle I missed, which is kind of annoying. Fortunately, most of that has affected the flames and a little bit of the tail, so it's very easy to touch up with some brush on primer instead. There are some odd gaps where it's a little difficult, I think, but for my level of painting, I think it'll be fine. And of course, there's some tucked away underneath here, but I wasn't rotating these when I was priming it. I think it will work just fine for the paints I'm going to use, but some very cool stuff here. The arms still move, which is nice. Have to touch up a little bit of that when I paint, but that's a-okay. Just some really cool plates, a couple alternate heads, I believe. Some nice details here. Just really cool kit. Really like this. It's a little shorter than I expected. Originally, I thought it'd be a bit taller, but it is about twice dwarf height, maybe twice one of the characters. And I think fits really well. Looks really cool. Is a pretty cool mechanical section for this. I've only covered the Spearhead cards here, the Spearhead abilities. So when I'll do individual videos. I'm planning to pick up a second Spearhead so I can show you all the options for these guys. Obviously, I could do the War Despot on his own, but hopefully I'll have him painted by then. That'd be nice. But for the Dominator engine, I'd like to show you both the mace and the Immolation Cannons. The Bombard, I'd like to show you the Death Shrieker missile as well, and then the Infernal Cohort with swords. So I will do individual videos for those, and I'll cover their abilities in that video. Well, that's all I have for today. That was the Spearhead for the Helsmiths of Hashut. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.